Right here. Here it is. Boom.
All right. He's got a couple sentences.
Now here's your intro right here. Ladies and gentlemen.
Oh shit.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest with us here today. A world-renowned bassist, songwriter, producer, occasional vocalist as well, as it turns out. You've seen him with everybody. He's produced for Ray Khalil, Freddie Gibbs. He's done. It's a massive list.
Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Millions of streams. You love him. You know him. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Carrtoons.
Insert clap track here.
Yes, a smattering of applause for the two of us.
Give me that late night applause.
How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great today.
Nice.
Today's, as you know, my back has been killing me all week, and today's a little bit better than yesterday. So that's all I can ask for.
Yeah, it's true. We had a recording session all week, and the night before it's unlocked. Come on in. It's all good.
We got a special guest. Hell yeah!
Come on in.
Let's go.
If you want to pop on screen for a second, here you can.
Come here.
What's up, guys?
Trying to set the precedent.
Young man.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
How's it going?
Special guest.
Special guest Elijah Fox, soon to be actual guest on the show. He's finally back from this
A little celeb shot.
decades-long tour he's been on. But yeah, you hurt your back just before you came over. I can't believe you made it happen because you were not even able to move. Really,
it's okay. It was worth it. It was worth the session. I won't say what it was for, but it was worth. It was worth making the trip out here for.
Yes, a secret session that we were both part of. We did a three-peat this year.
Three-peat, Tiny Desk.
Want to talk about the three-peat?
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, I mean, I met Kiefer through Tiny Desk. Through Bobby Carter. Shout out to Bobby. I guess, what was that, 2022?
Well, it was
It must have been earlier.
Pandemic,
It must
so
have been earlier
like
than that.
2020.
Yeah, so, and he reached out to see if maybe I could connect the Count, Kaylin Ellis, and Kiefer for, all of us to kind of do this at-home Tiny Desk, and that was a great excuse for me to reach out to Kiefer in the first place. But then, when we both had records coming out, Bobby was able to follow up with us, and we both did our own Tiny Desk this year and played on each other's, which was kind of a beautiful full circle moment. And it's great that we've done 4 Tiny Desks and we've both been on each other's, on each one. That's been a pretty special thing. And then we just did the one for the Locks, which was just kind of like the craziest experience we've had so far in music business, probably.
The happiest I've been.
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah.
When I think about it. The feeling of recording that. Yeah, I think I had more fun that day than even my own Tiny Desk in a weird way. Maybe because there's less pressure.
Yeah, it was like two very different worlds. I feel like, my own was like, and yours, it was very, the people that are in your world is like very like family vibes, where that one was more, we're like, whoa, there's some really powerful people in the room. This is like a very special day in history. It didn't feel like as much about us as much being a part of something. And, even Tiny Desk, though, I think being there the first time, I felt, wow, just to be part of the Tiny Desk lineage at all is very special, in any little way, especially being there is so different than doing one at home. It just is, That was like a palpable experience. I was so nervous that first time we were there. I mean,
yeah, doing the concert from home, it's not the same.
It's not even close. Yeah,
it's an honor to be a part of it.
Yeah,
but it wasn't. No, you got to be there when you walk on set and you see it.
When you see that Mac Miller hat,
makes you the Mac Miller hat. Yeah, makes you emotional.
Yeah, totally. And because I was able to have like my actual family, like my dad was there on mine. That brought its own level of emotionalness that was like really kind of hard to deal with, honestly, during the show.
Yeah.
I was definitely the closest I've been to tears during a show, maybe ever, when we were doing Give It Up, just kind of reflecting on like, wow, I made this like in my parents' kitchen during a kind of a rough time. And now we're here and I'm playing it with my dad. This is insane. This is a very full circle moment. And like, just the power of believing in an idea or like a thing you have when it actually comes full circle way later, it just feels that feels better than anything, right? It's like when you have a fully realized idea like that, and it comes in, never exactly the way you expected it, but sometimes even better,
Yeah. Dude, I think that might be my favorite thing. It's like a top 5 favorite quality of yours for me, which is that you understand story and meaning when things occur in your career.
Right.
You have a really great skill of like putting things in perspective.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's all part of our our overarching story, and I hope to have a long career in this thing, I don't want to just be a person that, has a 3-year run on Instagram and then it's just over or something like that. You know what I mean? So that's just going to be one of the chapters. And, a great teacher once told me, you need to create chapters of your life. And I think, part of that, you got to understand that you're changing chapters sometimes.
Right.
And I think, I'm definitely a super introspective guy. So I love talking about this kind of stuff. And,
Oh, yeah. We do this. I mean, you know this. I guess I'm directing this at the audience, but me and Carrtoons, we talk about we just talk about our stories coming up as musicians every day on tour.
Yeah,
we love talking about low moments, high moments. Trying to draw a string between them, and
right. I mean,
and trying to help, and then talk about decisions that we're trying to make right now, and, relating them to those things.
And for the audience, we've had kind of similar paths, but didn't know each other for so many years, and there are so many people that are like coming out of the music school world that have these we're so much more similar than we are different. And me and you particularly, but a lot of us that are in this world where you're the best kid in your town, and then all of a sudden you're thrust into this world where you suck, and you're like thrown around, and it's just like it's really a lot to deal with, and like it's like uncharted territory, I think, for a lot of people, and there's like not a lot of people to talk to about it, and even the greats of our generation that went to music school are so like scarred by it, and like it's a wild thing, and a lot of us in our early 20s have really wacky years doing weird jobs or whatever, and I felt like we had that in common.
Let's get into that. I wanted to ask you let's start with what were you doing in March of 2020 when the pandemic started? What were you doing right before then?
Well, I had just accepted a job as a dishwasher. Right, probably like last week of February.
Right.
And then, was supposed to go in for training like March 14th or something like that. So I never actually had to go.
Yeah, March 14th was like the day.
That was like the day, yeah. So... And, all my gigs were canceled, all that. But then I was able to, like, finish all the shit that I was working on. Right. And I really didn't have that much time. I was, like, really just playing a lot of gigs with people that just try to survive and, just really barely breaking even on stuff. So that was, like, a tough time. And, I definitely was going to make a commitment to, like, do a little bit less music for a while. And potentially, get a second job on top of that one, maybe teach or something, because you got to do what you got to do sometimes. And like, because things comes in waves, sometimes you got to realize like, all right, I'm down right now. I got to like get my money together, or I got to get this together or whatever. So, the pandemic happening, I'm one of the very, few people that was lucky to like, I don't know if benefit's the right word from it, but, I was lucky to have, time to, collect my thoughts and actually finish a bunch of stuff that was on my hard drives, and honestly just share a bunch of stuff that I already made. It was really like a lot of the stuff, it felt like I was like working on it, but a lot of that stuff I'd already made, and I just like finished or like, repurposed or,
And then remind me, which month did a Saturday Morning come out?
I don't really know, to be honest, but it was that year, probably at the end of that year.
Yeah. So that must have led to that record getting finished, which
totally
that was like your first bump.
That was the first bump, yeah. And I had made a little remix thing also that kind of worked, that I put out like the first week of pandemic. I was like, I'm just gonna like put some mastering on this, and like while everybody's home. I didn't think everybody would be home for a while, so I was like, during this week.
What was the remix for?
It was called Flipped. I just did a bunch of remix of other people's. It's only on SoundCloud. But
I
that
never
helped
heard
a
that.
lot. I made a lot of like Instagram videos for those tracks. And, having like some themed stuff always helps me kind of like keep it going, I guess. And around that time, I was trying to do more, putting other people's stuff over my beats so people could hear what that would sound like, really. That was really the purpose of it. So people could be like, oh, well, if I had that kind of production over my shit, that would be sick.
Right.
So that was really the intention of that. And it did lead to a lot of stuff. It did lead to a lot of people like being like, oh, yeah, I need some beats and stuff. And definitely was sending out a lot of Dropbox folders that didn't really work out over that time. But, it's all good. And Saturday Morning was the first one that like worked. And the first album I think that I put out that had a really personal meaning, and I think there's a reason why it worked, because I committed to some weirder ideas, and this is the first one where I'm singing on it too.
Right.
It's the first one where I'm like, you know what, fuck it. I'm gonna like write lyrics like I used to in middle school, and let's just go for it again. And I think there, especially like the ones that I didn't put out during that time period, there's definitely some misses and some weird shit on there. But the ones that I listened back to I love that record. That's like still probably my favorite one I've made.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude. I mean, yeah, it's such a cool story. Because, whenever you talk about it, there's always this theme of like, it just didn't quite work out for you so many times. There were so many times where you could have quit.
Yeah.
Where you were in New York and then you couldn't afford it, so you had to move back home. And you said that would have been like, your fourth time or something?
Yeah. I moved to New York City so many times. And for anybody that feels any shame about that, like, don't feel shame, because like this happens to a lot of kids, I feel like, from the suburbs. It's like you just like aren't familiar with this world, and you don't really understand how much money you really need to have. And I was lucky to have a safety net of like, my folks lived an hour and a half from the city. So, if shit hit the fan, I could always go back there. And I never really needed to, except for on one occasion. But, I just moved into less expensive apartments elsewhere, really.
Right.
And I lived in Connecticut, like, also probably 3 or 4 different times, kind of bounced back in between. Connecticut became my like safety zone because, I went to my first college in Connecticut.
Right, Western Connecticut.
Connecticut. And, I knew all these people in Danbury that, we could go back and play. And, post-college, the first house I moved into was like, Animal House vibe, $200 a month. It was like this house only had a basement and a second floor.
Yeah.
So 5 of us lived there.
Wow.
And I could rehearse there.
Good Lord.
Yeah, it was awesome. I loved that spot. We had so many parties there. It was crazy.
And this is the Mad Sata era.
Yeah, this is the Mad Sata era. And the first Mad Sata performance was in that basement.
Yeah.
And we fucking crushed. It was so fun.
For those of you who don't know, Mad Sata was this group that Ben was in. Big band. What was it? 7-piece, 8-piece?
We had 8 and then 9 at the end of it. But yeah, 8 pieces with 3 horns.
Pretty like a mid-level, pretty successful.
Yeah,
group.
we did some shit.
Yeah.
Shout out to all those guys. That was like my first project that like anybody ever heard or like, started to tour and play real venues or anything like that. Everything I did before that was all high school, fucking around and stuff. So that, when I met Joanna Teeters, the singer from that, was the first time I was like, whoa, we could actually like do something. And she was also from my hometown, which was cool because it was like felt like connected when we would travel and do other stuff. Like we're bringing our sound from our area to other places, and it's always been nice. So Joe and me and Joanna still work together now. She's on the Tiny Desk obviously, and those were like really the years that made me know that what's happening now is possible.
Right.
I got like a glimpse of all the cool stuff. Got to meet all these cool people very briefly. Got to meet Bilal for 2 seconds, or got to meet, whatever. And you're like, wow, we were like in it, but didn't quite, like a lot of people's projects around, that you do in your early 20s. It's just like maybe a little too big of a thing you're trying to pull off, or just a lot of people got different things going on.
Yeah, I mean, 9 pieces.
It's just too many people. I mean, this is the bottom line of what was going on, and ultimately, it's hard enough to make it work with just me now. You know what I mean? It's like it's tough as a one person thing. So
very tough.
And luckily these days, I feel like through like you and Nate and all these other people we've been working with, there is a little bit of a partnership there, and that helps. That takes the stress off being a solo artist a lot, I think.
Yeah.
When you know that like this is all kind of like in the well and it's all helping each other. But yeah, I always played in bands growing up, and I always loved that. I miss that sometimes. And that's what I've been loving about playing with you and Nate recently. It's like we're like in a band again.
We're in a band.
Yeah, it's fucking it's nice.
Really cool. Yeah, that's an interesting thing when working in a large group, the challenges of keeping that together versus working solo, which is also really difficult.
Right.
But now I think, now we're in a place where, because we have our own independent careers, that's what interdependence is, right? Like when you have multiple independent people that lift each other up. That's a hard thing to achieve.
Yeah. But no, I find that group stuff is a lot funner for me now. Yeah. Now that I've like learned how to really make music on my own, and like I have much more of a egoless approach, I think, than I used to. I think I still had a lot of ideas I needed to get out in some way, and I was like trying to force that into these groups for a while, and I think that's a really tough thing to learn to navigate that, because you probably do have ideas that are good or whatever, but it's hard to know when they're like right and all that. So I don't know. It's I've definitely learned a ton from just like forcing myself to play other instruments and do stuff. When I first started programming drums again, when I was like 25, I was so bad at it, like unbelievably bad at it. And I can't stress that enough. Like really had no clue. And it really took a lot of trial and error to get to the point where like I feel like I'm making stuff that sounds cool now and is usable on records.
How many beats a day were you making around that time? Or what was the most you ever did for a consistent amount of time?
I mean, there was a summer, I think, that really started me on a good path of making a lot of stuff, which was, I was like, all right, over these 3 months, I want to make 100 beats. And I think I probably ended up more like 150 that summer.
Woo.
So it was like, I was trying to make like 3 a day, and I was working on a moving company at that time. So it was, it was tough the days I had work to do anything. But the days I was off.
How old are you in this story?
26, probably. 20.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like older than I should have been.
That's great.
Yeah, and like 25, 26, that's when I started making like, 3 beats a day again, when the band started kind of fizzling out and I started to really want to make music by myself again. I started to feel that urge. And, I would say
that's when I started hearing about you.
Probably. I mean, I started posting stuff around then, and I posted something right when I moved to New York, like the next year probably, where I had posted the first Instagram video I posted of me making music was over your beat.
Wow.
Because you had posted stuff being like,
I used to put all the stems on Dropbox.
You put all the stems
or WeTransfer or whatever. Yeah.
And I loved the spirit of that, and I was like, wow, this is cool. And I filmed that on my iMovie, like in the computer or whatever.
Wow.
And that is some grainy shit. If you want to find that video, if you want to look back on that,
you guys, look, this is how it's done. All right. I mean, dude, isn't it funny? I mean, that's when you start making, really, that's 5 beats a day.
Yeah.
You do 150 in 3 months.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I'm tripping. That's like,
I mean,
no. I'm thinking 1 month it would be 5 a day.
No.
That's like 1 and some change.
Yeah.
That's a lot of beats. 150 in the summer is a lot. But isn't it funny, like, making 150 beats in the summer is when people start noticing you. It's when your drum programming gets better.
Yeah.
It's when your sounds get better. You start making videos and
the end of that summer,
all of these things.
The end of that summer, I made a few things that were like, oh, this is like usable in a real context.
Exactly.
For not only what I was doing, but Joanna started doing some solo music at that time. And, it was nice to like make music without it being for one thing. Because I think that can be a real source of writer's block for a lot of people. Like, I'm in a band, we have this kind of sound, and I need to write music for that, instead of just like picking up an instrument and just doing whatever feels good in that moment.
Right.
And it's real. I mean, it's easier said than done. I don't really know what the right way to do that is, but for me, you know, starting to make music by myself without a real like band to make it for or anything like that, or in Carrtoons wasn't even a name yet, you know, that was really eye opening and really cool. I was like, oh, I could do whatever. I just got to like get out of my own head and like actually do it, you know, actually commit to it. And it's not always going to be amazing my first shot at it. And I definitely that was the time I was like, you know, if I'd make something that was pretty cool, I would try it again. Or like something that's pretty similar to it. Right. Where I don't do that as much now, but like it felt like more like practice in sports or something like that. You know, you get it was like doing layup drills or something. And especially drum production takes just reps. I think, you know, when you're playing your main instrument over stuff, that's different. But, you know, learning how to like really fucking understand. I mean, there's kids that are making trap drums better than a lot of adults that are, you know. So it's like, I got to keep up with these kids, man. People are making really cool stuff out here. Yeah. You know, I like want to be on that level, even if that's not my genre. Like, I want to be able to program that well. And, you know, I was only just like messing around in battery with just one shots at that time. I hadn't really discovered anything else. But, you know, slowly you start to figure out, like, if I make stuff with hi-hat loops and then one shots, maybe that's a vibe. And then, you know, addictive drums came in my life, and then that kind of definitely opened up a lot of shit for me. And I think at first I really only used that for hi-hats. I was like, I'll just use you one shots because I trust those. I trust the way those are mixed or whatever. Right. I didn't trust myself to really design one shots or like, you know, make stuff out of addictive like that. And, you know, over time you start to realize what you like, and you're like, I can fucking do that. Yeah.
I mean, why not? It only took a few hundred tries to get there.
Yeah, exactly. And you make a couple stinkers and, you know, it's all right.
Yeah, who cares? You know? Yeah. Make a couple shitty songs. It's gonna happen, you know.
Yeah, and I think that was the hard part for me, was like going from a band that was making heat and like was making some good shit to like sucking by myself. That was humbling, you know. Damn. And but you know, we've talked about it a lot. I kind of like, it takes 5 years to get
5 years.
Takes 5 years.
I was just about to ask you.
You know, it takes 5 years to get good at some shit, and I kind of knew that going into that. It's like, all right, this is gonna be a little bit of a process. Yeah. If anyone's gonna trust what Carrtoons is, or like me as a beat maker, and if I want to see myself like I see these other people, like a Timbaland or whatever the fuck, especially at that time, I don't know why he was really, to me, like, yes, this is what you need to do to be a producer.
Yeah, I mean, one of the greats.
Yeah, sure. It's like I need to go back to like the people that are the best ever. Like, what are they doing? Right. Like, who are my actual top 10? You know, it's like Dr. Dre. Why? You know, like, why do I like that shit so much? Timbaland. Why do I love that so much? You know, Jimmy Jam. Why do I love that shit so much? Why do I love Prince so much? All that, you know. Yeah, all that stuff. Prince in itself is like a 5-year rabbit hole. Oh
yeah. I mean, I want to back up that the 5-year rule, you guys. I think the 5-year rule, Carrtoons' 5-year rule, might be the thing that I learned the most from you. So it's such a good rule.
I think we came up with this together, though. I don't know if this is something you could say to me.
You blurted out, it takes 5 years to do something worthwhile, and I was like, there you go. That's great. Or it takes you 5 years to get to the next level. It takes you 5 years to get good. It takes you 5 years to do something significant. Yeah. And by the way, you shouldn't be aiming, I think in music, it's hard to, I might overgeneralize here, so I could be wrong.
I'm ready for it.
My opinion is that, you know, meaningful things take long periods of time, and, you know, you should be making long-term plans for things, generally speaking, not for everything. If you want to have a short-lived phase where you're, I don't know, what's something you could do in life that's, you can go skydiving a couple times. You don't have to turn that into a lifestyle, but I think for music, like, you know, you really, you want to be going, what do I want to be doing in 5 years? Especially if you're doing it as a career. I mean, my gosh.
Right. And both things are true ultimately, because a lot of great songs are made in 15 minutes.
Right.
Those are like two different parts of the brain, though.
But
You know what I
the
mean?
15
That's like
minutes come from
the 5 years.
the 5 years.
Exactly.
The 10 years, the 20 years.
You like
yeah.
can't get into that like alpha state, as Quincy Jones calls it,
Right.
without that 5 years
Oh,
of
yeah.
like, you know, 10,000 hours, whatever you want to call it. It's really all getting to the same point.
Right.
All these kind of philosophies about the
By
same
the
thing.
way, 10,000 hours, I'm just thinking of this now. 10,000 hours divided by 5 is 2,000 hours, and that's how many work hours there are in a year if you work a 9 to 5.
Whoa.
That's something just to tell you about my upbringing. That's something my dad told me when I was like 10. It's like information a 10-year-old does not need, but my dad thought it was really important.
This dude's parents are like rocket scientists, just for the record.
I'm the son of 2 aerospace engineers, 2 rocket scientists.
Just put it out there.
But yeah, my dad said when I was like 10, he was like, there's 2,000 work hours in a year. If you work a 40-hour week, which is 9 to 5, 5 days a week, 50 weeks, 50 times 40 is 2,000. So that's a 9 to 5 for 5 years.
Yeah, that's actually like right on the money. That's
a 9
crazy.
to 5 for 5 years is 10,000
Yeah,
hours.
you're like,
boom.
By the time
that's
you
why
work
the 5-year rule is so good.
Yeah, if you work a job for 5 years, you're getting to the point where like when people come in that are new, you're like, ugh, because you really know that job. You really
You've mastered it.
Yeah, you understand the language of that job. You know, whether that's a retail job, whether that's, you know, working in an office, whether that's, you know, working on Wall Street. It's kind of all, you know, and you know, I definitely, with the beat making thing, I had heard Jerry Seinfeld say that he was getting up and doing a 9 to 5 with writing, you know,
right?
And I was like, why not? Why not like try to get up a little earlier and actually start my day? You know, and because my fiance works like a 9 to 5, that made a lot of sense for me to work in those hours and then to be hanging later in the day. Where like, you know, a lot of my friends kind of were like, I need to feel right. I need to, you know, and basically just bullshit all day. And then maybe make some shit at night, maybe. Right. So I was like, maybe, you know, like, I don't know if I'm as talented as those people. So, like, you know, like, I think I got to, like, work for this. And, you know, it is tough, especially when you're, like, surrounded by people that are somewhat, like, genius level stuff to be like, I think I need to have a different thing than them. Because they can just, like, not warm up and like play perfectly.
There's a lot of people like that.
Like I'm not that guy. So, you know, it's, you know, it's good to be realistic with yourself about that. I think, you know, like I need to practice. I need to do all this stuff. And that's why I feel like this year's going so well because I'm practicing again.
Yes,
like, actually,
dude.
you know, we're both practicing again.
We're practicing, baby.
Yeah. I mean, as simple as that sounds, like, you know, it's tough as you get busier in life again and stuff starts going well, and you know, like it's tough to keep that discipline. Yeah. When, you know, especially as people are telling you it's, you know, you're killing it, you know, you got to stay on top of it. It takes a different kind of self-discipline. Yeah. It was actually easier for me to have that fire when nobody cared. Because I was like, I got to show people like I'm on that level. And it's been actually
that
tricky.
Hunger was crazy. Yeah.
It's been tricky actually to get a lot of validation. Yeah. and keep it on the same level of inspired, you know, and but you know, life humbles you. And you know, a lot of shit has definitely happened over this year to be like, okay, cool, I'm good. I got enough. I got enough again.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, you got to keep practicing. I mean, dude, just recently we saw Thundercat play, and we're like, that guy's been practicing.
That's crazy. He sounds insane.
Like he was already one of the iconic bass players when he honestly, like when his first record came out. Yep. First 2 records came out. It was like, oh, this guy's iconic. Drunk came out in like I want to say 2018,
I think 17. Yeah.
By then he was on top of the world in the musician space. But then you listen to how he's playing now. He's playing better.
It's better.
Like significantly better.
Yeah,
and it's not like he wasn't great before.
And significantly healthy. He looks great.
He's healthy,
like, it was very inspiring to see that whole thing and, you know, to see him just rip a huge size venue. And, you know, my band with Joanna had opened for him 10 years before that. So I hadn't heard him in person in 10 years. Whoa. And there was like that kind of gap. And so it was palpable, the difference of how much cleaner the playing was. Oh, man. How much better the singing was. And I think that was probably due to maybe like him being in better shape or something. That's just my guess, you know, as somebody that would like to get that together. I was like, wow, that's cool. That's inspiring. And, it was just like, seeing it at the highest level, and it was insane, to be backstage for that kind of thing is always like, that is good for 6 months of inspiration right there.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I can still hear some of those solos in my mind, like a very like fuzzy version of it from that day. I can still imagine a few of those particular solos. And he took a solo on like every song, I think, which was sick.
Just shredding the whole time. It was awesome. One of my favorite things I've seen.
Yeah, man.
Dude, do you mind if we change gears and talk about music school?
Oh, let's do it.
We love talking about music school.
Let's get into it.
So many different places we can take this. Let's just start with where you went. So you went to...
I did 2 years at Western Connecticut in Danbury, and I did 2 years at SUNY Purchase in Westchester, New York.
Nice. Hell yeah. And let's see, there's so many different stories I kind of want to steer you towards.
Steer me.
What was your audition process like for both schools?
Western Connecticut actually wasn't like, it was probably the only audition that went decent for me, to be honest, and that's probably why I went there, because it was pretty based
and this
in like
is you playing upright at this point.
No, I played electric on all of my auditions.
Interesting.
I hadn't even played upright. I had only fucked around a little bit on upright bass in high school, so I auditioned on electric bass to every school, including Berkeley, New School.
What's
all that shit.
One in Montreal though?
Oh, McGill.
You took your upright up there.
That was later though. That was when I was trying to transfer.
Okay.
But no, my audition experience for WestCon was actually pretty good. And Berkeley was tough. I think everybody's got that classic Berkeley, like didn't exactly work out the way you wanted it to.
They lost my like
your paperwork or something
or whatever.
Oh shit!
There was no evidence that I had auditioned, and I was like, I drove to Los Angeles and I auditioned.
Man. Yeah,
they were like, it didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
What?
Yeah, that's crazy because you probably might have went there.
Might have.
Yeah, that's like some alternate universe shit.
It is.
But yeah, I hardly played jazz really in high school, so I played like a piece, like I was finger tapping on 6-string bass for my Berkeley audition, and like very different from what a lot of people would know me to do now. I would say like in the Victor Wooten kind of world, but maybe a little more like indie rock sounding than that, if that makes any sense. So yeah, it definitely wasn't really the right candidate for a lot of jazz schools, to be honest. Yeah, like, because I remember going to New School and I played a couple songs on electric, and then it was like surviving, and it sounded all right. And they're like, "Can you play one up tune for us?" And I played 4 by Miles Davis, and I counted off. I played a few bars of it, and they like stop, and they counted off a tempo, which was a tempo I had never played in my life up until that point.
They pushed it faster,
so fast, like like crazy. I couldn't get through a chorus of it. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
It was like a real fuck you, honestly. They wanted to bury me. And my dad was outside of the audition and was like, ooh. When I came out,
this is
for New School.
For New School.
So that was when I like actually tanked.
They probably did that because you came in with an electric.
Yeah, they didn't love that. And there was definitely, I think there probably still is a little bit of a stigma, definitely a little bit more of a stigma of like people that, hadn't even, spent the time to try to make that transition yet. So WestCon was a good place because they let me pick up upright the first week I got there, basically. And I bought a $500 shit plywood bass when I got there. And I got crazy
plywood.
Yeah, so bad.
I didn't even know they made plywood.
I would love to find. I'll send you a picture if I can find one. It's red, and it was like a real. It was.
You see a red bass, I was like, ooh.
It was a real like '80s Ron bass. It sounded so like DI and crazy sounding, but that's what I learned to play on for the first year, and then my folks actually helped me, God bless, get a proper upright the next year.
Nice.
Which I spent a lot of time on, and definitely like kind of learned how to play on that instrument. I missed that instrument because it actually broke. It like got classic upright story. I got a crack in it, and then I ended up selling it and getting a different one that kind of sucked. And now I don't have an upright. End of that story. But ultimately, I love the upright, and got really into it at WestCon, and pretty quickly there decided I wanted to maybe do a different program. Not that I felt like I was above it or anything, because I really wasn't very good. I just financially needed a change of pace, because it was a lot of money to go to that particular state school in Connecticut, because I'm paying out-of-state tuition. So all these people were paying like $5,000, but I was paying like $25,000.
Oh, wow.
Something crazy like that. And then they took away my scholarship money after the first year. So my mom was like, you can't go here anymore.
Yeah.
Even I remember when I transferred, the head teacher there, said to me, but if you had a choice, like, would you still transfer or not? Which I felt like it was an unfair question, because I told him it was for financial reasons, but it was really for both, ultimately.
Yeah.
It was really because I wanted a little bit of a change of pace, and there was some really good faculty at Purchase. Todd Kuhlman, who ran the program there, was a bass player, and Doug Weiss, who I studied with, was, playing with Brian Blade Fellowship, was playing with Gerald Clayton Trio, was playing with all the people that I fuck with.
Yeah.
So I was like, I should be there if I want to get the most out of this college experience.
Right.
So, from the time I was at WestCon, I was kind of trying to figure out a way to get into the Purchase thing.
Yeah.
And luckily it worked out. I explored other things that might be more possible, like McGill, like I was telling you about.
Right.
Which is, it's so cold up there. Just unbelievably cold up there. I thought I cried when I showed up with my bass at this audition. I literally, I walked 8 blocks in -10. And I just remember getting there. I was like, why am I doing this? This is crazy. I was in so much pain, and I'm carrying around this shit bass at the time. And I was like, man, this is just so hard. I don't know, I just remember feeling really defeated at that audition, and ultimately got waitlisted at McGill. So, and by the time they called me to say you got in, I had already accepted at Purchase. And, Purchase was just the right fit for me, and
dude,
just the right place at the right time.
Yeah,
really.
Purchase is one of the best programs around for sure, and I think one of the themes of all of these stories, so many of your stories, I have a lot of students always ask me, should I go to music school? Should I not go to music school? What's the perfect decision to make? Should I move to a bigger city? Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I go to jam sessions or whatever? Yeah. But one thing I love about your story is that, while people are trying to walk through the right door, and they have sometimes they got 8 different doors to walk through. A lot of times you're trying to walk through one and it's shut in your face. Yeah. I mean, dude, there's more to the story that we're about to get to.
Right.
But I just want to point that out, that, whether it's having to move back to Connecticut from New York for the 4th time,
right?
Working at a Macy's, working at a, washing dishes, doing normal jobs,
right?
Or whether it's getting waitlisted at a school, or you can't afford this, we're taking away your scholarship money.
Right.
Your band doesn't work out. We can't support 9 people in this band anymore. Just so many doors are getting shut on you.
Yeah.
And I think it's more important to be the type of person that's creative, that's going to find the next door and give that a shot, and the one after that, and the one after that, and the one. This persistence that Carrtoons has is one of the most outstanding qualities that you have.
Thanks,
I think.
Man.
Yeah,
appreciate that. I think it is a little bit somewhere between that and a compulsion. You know what I mean? I when stuff ends, I just need a new thing. And I think a lot of people, creative people, are really afraid though when that door closes and take that really personally. And I have a lot of friends, as soon as school ended, they just kind of went back to their shell, and they were a little too sensitive for this shit. And I'm a really sensitive dude as well, but I just have the compulsion, and I gotta go back to the well. I gotta figure something out. And I never, I guess because I've had the luxury of my dad as a musician who, definitely told me from jump, like, if you're going to do this, it's not going to be pretty, bro. It's not going to be like, you're not that guy. You're not like Charlie Puth guy. That's not who you are. And like, that's not really what music is in general for most people. And, God bless. My dad has had a lot of doors shut in his face, doing that. So I certainly was aware that was a thing. And I think part of me, wants to just prove people wrong in a way. And I think that's been, a big part of what's kind of propelled me to get where I was and where I am now. Is like, I just like wanted to make it work. And because, I'm so into comedy and stuff. And I really like the idea of just being the purest form of myself and presenting that. I've just been really sure that some version of that could work. Yeah. And I certainly didn't think it would be what I'm doing now, but I really thought it would be with what I was doing with Joanna or, some other kind of thing. But it turns out, when I really did strip away all the other stuff and it was just me making music in my bedroom, I think for you too, it's like the purest form of what you do. And you realize like, oh, this is what people want.
Oh yeah.
This is like, and it's a little raw, but it's good. Yeah. And, I'll never forget seeing your videos for the first time. Like, oh, this fucking guy gets it. Like from the first 10 seconds.
Oh man,
just the aesthetic. There's a thoughtfulness that goes into it, especially if you really take this shit seriously. And I don't know. It's definitely a compulsion though. At this point, I can't even take credit for some of the shit you're saying, but I appreciate it. It's very nice of you.
Well, whether it is noble or not, and I happen to think it is very impressive nonetheless. And I think it's something that anyone should learn from. I'm always like looking into the lens, like
me too.
The younger version of myself who's watching this, being like, pay attention to this part because I think that's so important. Tell me. I wonder if I ask it this way, if you'll know what I'm referring to. Can you talk about when it's like your last bass lesson in at SUNY Purchase? What did your bass teacher tell you? Playing upright. What was his advice to you as you're about to?
That like I'm better at electric. Yeah, he heard me play electric.
Stop playing.
Yeah, he heard me play electric once, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you should do that." And which kind of hurt my feelings because like I wasn't even really playing that much electric at the time. I'll call it out. John Faddis said this to me. And John is a very, very smart guy, and I actually later in life really appreciate that he was so honest with me. But I'd been working so hard on these Ray Brown transcriptions.
Sometimes I thought it was your bass teacher.
No, he wasn't my bass teacher. He just did the repertoire class, which the last year you're at Purchase. If you're interested in going to music school, you should prepare yourself.
I didn't realize it was John Faddis. That's
brace
hilarious.
yourself for this mentally. You got to do basically all transcriptions for a full year, and you'll be held accountable twice a week, and you'll have to play all of it from memory at the end of the year.
Holy shit.
So I had 12 transcriptions total that I played unaccompanied at the end of the year. And a lot of them were soloing and walking of Ray Brown, Oscar Peterson trio, and like some of them are 6 minutes. Like,
bro, wouldn't you be hella nice at upright?
I love upright. I mean, a lot of stuff.
I've never heard you play upright. I feel like if you could do that, you must. Be hella nice.
Honestly, I really injured myself during that time though, because you're really
so much.
It's a little much. I believe in transcriptions, and I think people should do them. I think doing that particular way was maybe not the smartest, and I also, like I said, I like to prove people wrong. I really wanted to prove to Faddis that I could do this stuff,
right? That
I could play this Ray Brown shit that he was saying. Like he was kind of saying, like, you're not a soulful bass player to me in a couple ways, and that I needed to work on that. And I'm really glad he put me up to the challenge of that. But it was, it's a very specific thing to do, and it's very physical. Anybody that knows Ray Brown knows that is a sound that requires, some attack, and the thump is very serious. And he's a big man, and where I am not.
Yeah, he's like 6'5".
Yeah, he's like 6'5". I'm 5'9" and a half. And he, you know, it was just like, it was tough to try to get that sound that consistently every day. And, you know, I probably did 10 of them total. And then, you know, I just injured my hands towards the end of that year. I started feeling like pretty bad carpal tunnel. And,
wow.
And then I started, you know, I asked, can I just do a couple on electric? And I asked to do some Coltrane stuff on electric.
Whoa.
And I did I think I did like Trains Blues and like one other one. And I did those Coltrane solos on electric. And he was like, that's when he heard me do that. He's like, you sound like shit on upright compared to this. Like, you sound good on this.
Oh my God.
And you know, you're not always ready to hear stuff like that at that age.
Especially at the end of, I mean, you were willing to carry your upright through the cold
for 4 years straight.
But I mean, I'm just thinking about that audition. You put that up, juxtapose that with the audition that you had at McGill, where you're crying, just carrying your but you're willing to do it just the same. Yeah. You're willing to fly to Canada, walk through the cold, get waitlisted with this upright.
I drove to Canada, actually.
You know, yeah. Still, I mean, yeah, even more so.
Yeah, it's like crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long game, and there's definitely a persistence to what I do that I think I've learned now is actually kind of a plus, though, because I think I speak to a certain type of person that might be an underdog type in whatever they do. Mm-hmm. I think people see that in me, and people have told me after shows, definitely heavily implying things that they don't know, but that, they're like, I can tell that, like, you care a lot, and like you've had a journey, and like it's like not been easy to do what you do, and I appreciate what you do. And I'm like, how the hell do you know that? But I think there is a truth to that, and I think people can tell that, like, I'm not like the most flashy looking guy or anything like that. What we've both built is not, as much as
it's DIY.
There's an image in social media just because there is, but like I'm certainly not using that as a crutch or anything like that.
What we do is not industry. It's not mainstream. We have not been given the support of the major label or something like that.
And it's for people that really love music. So I'm like kind of giving back to an earlier version of myself, and I think people can feel that. And, I really do try to make stuff that like my friends in high school would like put on while we were smoking weed too and fucking around and like sharing stuff in a very sincere way. I feel like even, when we were making stuff this week, it was like, I want to check that box all the time.
Right.
And whatever suggestions I'm giving production wise are usually trying to get closer to that.
Right.
Whether people realize that or not, I'm usually trying to get like more towards that universal thing that I learned, sharing music in high school. That's what we usually, I think that's what everybody really learns, when you get a couple buddies that, you can really tap in with. I think for some people it's college, but for me it was high school, where I had, we were really digging deep in skate videos and other shit to like find weird stuff, and like really excited about sharing stuff and new sounds. Like that's got to be the spirit of it always, And I learned that from Alan Hampton, great bass player, guitar player, who, could definitely sense that I was good at this other thing. He's like, why are you trying to play like only standards? Like, I mean, that's cool. Like, keep working on that. But like, I can tell that like you're into other shit. Like what's going on here?
Yeah.
And you gotta, I think it's very easy in the school realm to like lose sense of what you actually like because you're trying to be so open-minded. Dude. And it's good to be open-minded, but it's also good to have a critic in you about what you like and don't like. Like that's not bad. No,
that's part of being an artist. That's what being an artist is being really specific and being intentional and
Jim Hall was always saying that, composing is like improvising in slow motion.
Right.
And you get to like make those decisions, and you have to have taste to make those decisions. You can't just be, those decisions don't just happen. And the more you can know like what you really love and the stuff that you're interested in, I think comes out a lot clearer, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I was kind of similar when I was in college. I was just playing standards, and when I was writing tunes, they'd be in the style of something. I'd write a tune that would sound like a Benny Golson tune or a Mulgrew Miller tune. And the actual like footprint of my musical personality was so small.
Right.
Like if you think about like 4 tunes a year.
Right.
If you think about like, 5 or 6 concerts a year, and of those concerts, like you got 4 or 5 original tunes.
Right.
And I'm talking about like the jazz stuff I was doing.
But I also think that's important, and I think that is a stage that everybody should go through before you get to where you're writing.
Well, that was like developing as like a craftsman of the instrument, not as much as like an artist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's like a phrase where it's like you gotta imitate before you can innovate.
Right.
And I think that's very important too. So I don't think you should just go right to innovate, because we've all seen people that go right there and you're like, I don't think that guy is qualified to innovate.
Yeah.
To be honest.
True. That makes sense.
You know what I mean? I think there's a fine line between that. And I think one of the things that makes us both qualified to be where we're at is we took that shit really serious.
Yeah.
So I don't want people to get the wrong impression about what we're saying here. Like,
both.
It's both.
It's both.
You definitely respect the craft, but you got to see the end of the road.
Yeah, you got to do both,
and understand that, like, if you're going to be making music in the style of Benny Golson exclusively, that's a very small window.
Yeah,
it might feel big to you right now because all your friends know who Benny Golson is right now, but like, it's that window is getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing too. Your perspective in it when you're in music school, your perspective at that age is that you think that that's a thing that everyone's going to understand.
Yeah,
which is like,
I mean, that's always the most cringy thing to me.
You underestimate how huge the music world is.
Yeah,
huge. You think like, because 99% of the musicians I interacted with were also in school. So in my mind, everyone knows about music school. 10 years from now, I don't even think about it, dude, except for in these sorts of conversations when there's a microphone on or it's like, late at night after a show and we're, headed back to the hotel where we talk about, oh man, I remember one time,
Yeah, I mean, but it's like, it's really like war buddies. It's like, honestly. And not everybody's going to be your war buddy. Not everybody knows this little like lingo from what, your experience. You were in a summer camp for a while.
That's a great way to put it.
And like,
war buddies.
And, it definitely took me a while to like unlearn that, I remember seeing my grandma when I was in music school, and my mom said, you just called your grandma dude 3 times. You're just so unaware, when you're in that bubble, and you start forgetting how you're talking to people. You forget, how you're presenting yourself, all that. So, my R.I.P. grandma. Sorry about that.
I just called your grandma dude 3 times. It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I remember that really like actually stuck out at me though. I remember being like, oh, I need to like be better about that. That's actually like unacceptable for me to talk to my grandma like that. Like, and
you get sucked into this world and you forget. Sometimes you forget people who aren't in that world.
She was being infinitely patient with me is what I was saying.
Yeah.
And I was not picking up on that at all. And just like,
And also at some point you're going to have to leave that world a little bit. And,
yeah. And, it definitely, I have a natural optimism about music that's really kept me through this. That optimism, once you get out of that summer camp, is really hard to keep up, I think. And I think that's one thing I've been telling people that are in school. Be like, whatever feeling you have right now about like how hopeful you are about it, just like put that in a time capsule. You know what I mean? Because you're going to need that. Oh. You're going to need that in a couple of years. Like, you're going to need that real bad.
Yeah.
And
where you're headed, you're going to need this.
Yeah, where you're headed, you're going to really
That's like being in a video game and there's like an item that you get in your inventory.
Yeah, totally.
And like, the wizard says you're going to need this where you're going. You're going to need that joy, that optimism.
Yeah, I mean, I was holding on to that experience of opening for Thundercat for many years, for sure.
Right.
But like, I opened for Thundercat once, I promise. I'm legit, and like, sometimes you need stuff like that to be like, no, I was close to where I wanted to be, or like, I felt the taste of that. And, you know, you don't get too caught up in those moments and start telling people about it every day.
Yeah. Cause someone opens for him every day.
Yeah. Cause someone opens for him everywhere he goes. And it's like, not, unbelievably special.
Not to take away from the accomplishment, but it is a perspective that you need.
Totally. And I think a lot of things in music are both, right? It's like, and just learning that, like, yes, I'm doing well, but also I'm making no money or whatever, like, so let's keep everything humble. And also just the humble stuff just makes it a lot easier to work with people. And, I think my whole collaboration thing with people is built on like being pretty easygoing.
Yeah.
In a world where I think a lot of people, for one, a lot of females don't feel comfortable working with men producers.
It's true.
I've certainly been on the good side of that, partly because I've been with Emily for 10 years and people are like, yeah. And, I have a good reputation in that world. And, I think even with everybody, I feel like I'm pretty good at, being down to earth and bringing out stuff of people that they didn't really know could be so casual. You know what I mean? Could be easy and fun and casual. That's kind of my, the style I've developed recently. It's like, when you were at the house, we made 4 songs before we knew it. Very, part of the day.
We've got to do a full record.
Yeah.
You and I. We got to do a full record.
Incoming.
Yeah, I got some time. I got some time in October, November. I'll stop by. We can do, if we do a week, we can do. Dude, think about what we can do in a week. Dude.
I know.
If in 4 days, think about what we made in 4 days, dude. Is it 4 or 5? 4 days?
I don't know, but we did a couple of days at my house and a couple of days here, and
man,
Kiefer's next record is going to be very great, people.
Dude, well, with your help, what I'm saying.
It's going to be very good.
Keep making it better and better. But yeah, I think we got to do the.
Oh yeah,
we got to do the Carrtoons.
Of course, Carrtoons.
Carrtoons.
Put it out for the people.
Coining it publicly for the first time right now. For the few that'll see this, for the few that listened this far in the episode.
Yeah, anybody that made it this far, Jesus.
People are listening to it. The watch time is very good on this show.
Hell yeah.
Very good on the show.
I'm a podcast connoisseur myself, so I'm like happy to give back to the podcasts community. Anybody that needs an hour in their day where they need somebody to kind of demystify or whatever, I'm happy to give that back to other people because it's been, I'm such a product of so many of these podcasts where, you can all of a sudden hear, people's very behind the scenes version of how these creative things were made. And often not music stuff is the stuff that really gets me excited about, like fun facts of like, did you know that this guy made this movie on a credit card or whatever? Wow. That's the kind of stuff that,
Yeah, I love stuff like that too.
I love, inspiration porn, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, I think this interview has probably turned into some inspiration porn for some of you. So
absolutely.
God bless anybody.
Dude, by the way, you're a beast at podcasting, dude. This was so easy.
Yeah, what time is it?
I just got out the way. I mean, dude, you were already there.
Oh, shit. Yeah. Hell yeah.
We're just closing out over the next couple of minutes here.
I got to see a chiropractor. I broke my back.
Yeah, bringing it back to where we spinal. Spinal. Bringing it back to where we started. Yeah, Ben hurt his back a few days ago, so he's going to be going to the chiropractor in a few minutes here. So we'll start closing out. And as we do so, I guess the first thing I would ask you is, what are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to your album. I'm looking forward to my album. Next year, I just really want to build off more of what we started this year, really. I feel like this year has definitely, when I was talking about chapters earlier, like this has been the beginning of a new chapter of my career, clearly. Right. And there's been some growing pains in that, but there's also been what's felt like actual real development and like real, okay, this is next level. And this the stuff we were recording this week that we also won't talk about felt like a very, very mature next level thing that takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get to. So
Right.
And I'm excited about just playing bass, man. It feels good to just be playing bass with you and in other projects again, and maybe a little less time on the computer has been kind of nice, honestly.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it has been a big year, and you've done a lot of really awesome things. The Tiny Desk, the Locks Tiny Desk, which you were the MD for, playing with Nate. Your music's streaming more than ever. You're playing more shows than ever.
Couldn't have done it without you, man. No, for real.
Oh,
appreciate it, bro.
We are road buddies. I spent more time. You've been my actual roommate this year. Even, I got 2 roommates here that I never see because they're always on tour. And
that's so real.
Because they're too talented for their own good. And then, but I get to be your roommate on the road.
Man.
So
looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, man. But dude, amazing pod. I'm gonna let you go get your back fixed. But it's really great to have you here in LA.
Yeah, man.
We'll do it again soon.
All love.
And until next time, this has been Approachable Music with my esteemed guest, amazing bassist, amazing producer, and a dear friend. Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are in the comfort of your own homes, please make some noise for Carrtoons.
Woo-wee.
Hell yeah. Beautiful.